Let's sort of break down the O-line. I guess a good place to start, Coach, just the newcomers, how you think they're going to fit in, the portal guys and the junior college players?
Right now, I think they're doing a solid job. You know what I mean? Obviously, all of this is foreign to those guys, so they're getting used to new verbiage, new languages, you know what I mean, new techniques, different fundamentals. Because I've always said every O-line coach is different. You know, I played for 5 of them during my time in the league, and every one of them was different. So it's foreign to them. So to me, it's about just creating, for us, consistency with our fundamentals and technique. And not only that, just continuing to, create chemistry and cohesion, because these guys are still learning each other too. And we got to trust the guy that's next to us, you know what I mean, by not overcompensating or trying to do too much and just trust the individual next to him. He's going to do his job.
Any of these guys going to start for you? Cory Stewart maybe, or?
I don't know. We competing right now. I have no clue yet. And I told them this competition is going to end up going in the fall camp, and it's based off everything you do from classroom to weight room to everything, because everything does matter. You know what I mean? So I think he'll have the opportunity to, as all of them will. But we just competing right now and trying to get better at our craft individually. And I always like to say the cream will rise to the top, if you know what I mean.
How do you evaluate these guys on a day-to-day basis? Like, what are you looking for as a coach that kind of gives you the knowing of, okay, here are the guys I'm running with right now?
I think the biggest thing is kind of going back to that word consistency. So whoever can be the most consistent day in and day out. Because for me as a coach and even as a former player, I want to know what I'm getting every day. I don't want a guy that's up and down and going through that emotional roller coaster. I want a guy that's dialed in and tapped in, blue collar, ready to come to work every day. So to me, the biggest thing in my eyes is going to be consistency from each individual and guys that you can count on, lean on, and trust.
Having this entire spring to really get these guys to gel more, I mean, how helpful has it been, and what are you seeing out of the players right now that maybe was lacking a year ago when all this was coming to fruition?
For one, I would say just the competition in the room. I mean, I've never had this many guys going into a spring season. Usually short 5, 6, 7 guys, and to have what we have right now, I think we have 15, 20 guys right now, and then we still got 3 more coming this summer. So I mean, our room's starting to get pretty tight, But I think that's a great thing. But to me, with competition, it's kind of like what's the verbiage? Iron sharpens iron. You know what I mean? And to me, if you know you got somebody behind you that's got just as good ability or better than you, you got to come with your mind right every day. I've told these guys numerous stories, because for me, as an O-line coach, one of the things I like to coach and teach off is based off of my experience. And they know the story I told them about a teammate of mine named Chris Spencer that I played with in college, who was Mississippi Gatorade Player of the Year, this and that. And I'm only 1 year ahead of him, but I knew he was a talented dude, right? He was a really good player for us. And matter of fact, he ended up going first round, and I went second round because he declared early for the draft. But he kept me on my toes every year, and I knew I couldn't slip up, because I knew any slip up, he would take my job, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Not only that, but even I played with Donald Penn in Tampa and in Minnesota, and he was a really good player as a rookie year. I was a couple years into the league at this point, but he kept me on my toes, and he ended up playing 14 years, 3 Pro Bowls, and has a record for offensive linemen as far as touchdowns in the history of the league. So to me, the competition in the room and having that many bodies in the room, you can't come out here relaxing.
And is it making your job easier or harder, just given the fact that you have so many guys wanting to
it makes it harder, I would say. It makes it harder, but it's a good problem to have. I'd rather have this problem than not have it. You guys saw last year how injuries was an issue for us, and you kind of playing guys and Pat's working up a group, and I appreciate those guys from last year, you know what I mean, giving their all week in and week out. But to have those extra bodies in the room, man, it's a huge, huge deal, And not only that, but I think it's a pretty good mixture of veteran, older guys, as well as a combination of younger guys we got to keep cultivating and bringing along, you know what I mean? But it helps also to have that experience in the room of maybe these guys hadn't played at this level yet, or maybe he come from this conference and that conference, you know what I mean? So you're not going to know until it happens, you know what I mean? I don't know how some of these guys hadn't played in front of 65, 70, 80,000 people, and you know, it's different. It is.
And obviously, there's a lot of excitement this week, you know, with the Final Four and seeing what the men's basketball team is doing. I mean, how much, you know, is you know your group of fellas, you know, feeding off of the energy of the town right now and seeing what can be possible.
I can't necessarily speak for them individually, but for me, it brings excitement to me. Just, you know, around campus, this community, man, Purdue is important. It makes up this area, you know what I mean? So for me, it tells you there's always a chance and hope, you know what I mean? And anything is possible. So it definitely motivates me with all the excitement that's going around in the city and the state.
Coach Walters talked about size. I mean, you talked about increased depth, Marcus. Got more bodies you can play this year. Just talk about how you've gotten bigger up front, too, with the guys you brought in.
Yeah, we're definitely bigger, you know what I mean? But bigger doesn't necessarily mean you can play, too, you know what I mean? So you got to be, yeah, it's awesome being big, but I want good players, too, you know what I mean? In this game, I think it's so much more about athletic ability and the ability to move my feet, because it's different than even when I played nowadays in football. You're seeing so many more multiple fronts. You're seeing so many multiple pressures and movement across the board. So even if I'm big, I still got to be able to move my feet. You know what I mean? Especially with what we do, because we're a pretty balanced team. We're going to do 6-man drop back pass and 5-man drop back pass. We're going to run outside zone, which you got to be athletic enough to do. And we're going to be pulling guys, which we got to be able to move and play in space, you know what I mean? So, yeah, we're big, you know what I mean, but we also got to be able to execute at the same time and be able to move and stay on our feet and things like that, and which you got to be a great athlete as well, you know?
How are you teaching, you know, the athleticism? I mean, you mentioned how the game has changed so much, and you know, can you talk about that and how athletic, you know, these guys are now these days?
Yep. Well, I can't teach that, you know what I mean? That's mom, dad, and God and DNA, you know what I mean? In my opinion, either you have it or you don't. You know, one of the things I always tell these guys, you got to know your limitations and your ability. Not only yours, but you got to know your opposition too, based off of film study throughout the course of a day or a week. So to me, even if I'm not as athletic, I still got to understand angles, and that's one of the reasons why I don't teach everybody the same. I believe in giving guys tools and putting in their toolbox, and we're going to work all of these tools, and you may be better at this tool, but this guy may be better at this tool, you know what I mean? One thing I always tell them is that we're all built differently, biomechanically. You got a different level of mobility and flexibility than I have, so it's things you can do that I can't do, and it's things I can do that you can't do, because we're not all built the same, you know?